Okay, so yeah, once again, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another class. So this is the Android training for the beginner. Yes, yeah, beginners level. So we're going to be looking into recycler view today in today's class. We're going to be talking about recycler views, Kotlin and Android Studio, and then yeah, of course, that's being said, we're going to use that knowledge to build an application. So I've already created a project here. I call it I Declare. So that's going to be the name of the application. Of course, you can name it whatever you see fit. Okay, so we're going to be looking at recycler view. Now, so if you think about applications that you commonly use, like your contacts, your contacts, your WhatsApp, and the likes. Okay, almost every single application has at least one list. Remember, in the last class, we talked about lists, okay? So almost every single application actually has at least one list, okay? On your phone, you have your call history, you have contacts. On even your social media applications, they display a list of data, okay? So some of them can be lists of words or phrases. Others can display more complex stuff. Okay, like probably a card that has text and images. Okay, but no matter what the content is, displaying a list of data is very, very, very is a very common thing in Android. Okay, so to actually help you build applications with lists, Android provides the recycler view. Okay, so it is designed to be very efficient, even with large lists. Okay, there's also the list, in Kotlin. Okay, that you can actually use to display is, but recycler view is more efficient, okay, especially when you want to display a larger list by. And why is it more efficient? It reuses or recycles the views that have been scrolled off the screen. So when we talk about recycler view, okay, now I usually tell people sometimes when you want to understand certain words in certain areas of life, okay, you can actually try to narrow down to the literal meaning. Okay, so for the word recycler view, from the word recycler, you can pick the word recycle. So what does it mean to reuse? Okay, so you're basically reusing or recycling views. So when you actually check your call history or your contacts, okay, so at the very first page, just probably like 3 or 4 or 5 contacts are being shown, depending on your settings or the application. Now, when you scroll, you may be tempted to think that probably it's a new view that you're seeing, a new card, a new view. No. Basically, it is not. It's just the same views that have been reused. So recycler view is designed to be very efficient with large lists, okay, by reusing or recycling the views that has scrolled off the screen. So the ones that has gone off the screen, it's just being reused to display data. Okay, so when a list item is scrolled off the screen, the recycler view reuses that view for the next list item that is about to be displayed. So what does it mean? It means that the item is filled with new content that scrolls onto the screen. Okay, so this behavior actually saves a lot of processing time and helps the list scroll more smoothly. Okay, so we're actually going to do that. Okay, we're basically going to do that. So we're going to be using an application, okay, and then implementing a recycler view. So it's just a simple application that displays 10 positive declarations or affirmations or as text in a scrolling list. And then much later in the next class, if we're able to fix the next class, or depends on how much time it takes to do this, we can actually add images to this lists, to this recycler view, to actually make it look much more interesting. Okay, so let's get down to business. So I've actually created already created a project. Okay, so that's what we're going to be using. So just a minute, let's set something up quickly. Okay. Okay, so I think let's get down to it. Okay, so let's set up a list, okay, to actually the list of data that we want to actually display. Okay, we're going to create that list. So we're going to store that in, we're going to use the string resources to display these declarations in the application. Okay, so these two things we're going to add is that list and then a source of data to provide a list of these declarations. Okay, so basically what do I mean? So I'm going to come to my strings.xml in the values folder. So I'm going to create my list here. So these are just going to be here. It's not really, it's just the strings. I'm getting the various declarations. So I'm going to just create them here. So I'm going to have, so permit me, I may actually just do some repetition. So let me say declare one. Let me call this declare one. And then what will be the first declaration? Let's just say, I am strong. Yeah, no matter what I go through. So let's duplicate 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. So you can have a lot of things here. So I may just repeat stuff. So I believe in myself. I am not a failure. Okay. I I will make it no matter what. Okay, so I'm just going to reuse these guys. So so I'll just repeat this guy because of time. You can actually just add. Or basically, it's fine. I'll just use it. So we are basically just stored them. Okay, we have just added them to string resource. So with this now, we can now reference them in our code. Okay, we can now reference them in our code. Okay, so let's do that now. So next thing we're going to do is to create a package, a new package. Now, basically what we're trying to do is to organize your code. Okay, because organizing your code logically helps you and other developers understand your code to be able to maintain and probably extend it. Just like probably you kind of organize your tools and whatever. Okay, so you can easily get to what you need, or probably how you organize your folders on your desktop, so you can easily find a file. Okay, so you can also organize your code into files and packages. So what's a package? Now, you look at this. Under the, you can see, let me switch this. Probably you may have not switched this, but let me open this up. So I'm going to go to Android. Now you have manifest, you have Java generated and the likes. Now in Java, excuse me, you see these three things. Let me just close this up. So when I open this Java file or folder, right, you see these three things. Okay. Now, so we have the so that's just my own naming package. Okay. So now let's look at the, if you notice, okay, the name of the package consists of several words separated, by a period, that's a dot. So you have the app.this.ideclare, app.this.ideclare, Android test, app.this.ideclare test. Okay. Now there are two ways in which you can make use of packages. First of all, to create different packages for different parts of your code. For example, developers will, often separate the classes that work with data and the classes that build the UI into different packages. Okay, so also use code from other packages in your code, because in order to use the classes from other packages, you need to define them in your build systems dependencies. We'll talk about that because it's standard practice to import them in your code so you can actually use their shortened names. Like, for example, the text view. Instead of actually saying, because your text view, so imagine if you wanted this, you're free to use this, okay? But imagine if you were, instead of using the package, the full qualified name, which is android.widget.textView, instead of actually going through that process, you just say android.widget, then before you now access the class, okay? So, of course, you've used import statements before. Like if you check here, you see all these import statements. So here I can just call app compat activity instead of having to write out all these things here. Okay, so that's just that. Now, how do you name a package? Okay, so a package name can actually be anything, as long as it is globally unique. No other published package anywhere can have the same name, because there are actually a very large number of packages, and coming up with random unique names is actually hard. So programmers actually use conventions to make it easier to create and understand package names. So what is this convention? First of all, the package name is usually structured from general to specific. That means each part of the name in lowercase letters and separated by a period. So you have important, one of the very important things, the period is just part of the name. It's just a part of the name. It does not actually indicate a hierarchy. Okay, so when you have something like Android X.appcompat.app, so it's not really hierarchy per se. Okay, it does not indicate hierarchy. Okay, so it's structured. So your package name is usually structured from general to what specific. Now, because internet domains are globally unique, it's convention to use a domain, and it's usually yours or probably domain of your business as the first part. So you can see for me here, you have app.isoftware. You can actually check by default. You guys usually see com.example. And the likes. Okay, so you can choose the names of the packages. So indicate what's inside the package and how packages are related to each other. Okay, so this is it. Let's just practicalize this. Now we're going to create a package. Okay, here. So I'm just going to say new. I'll come down to package. So now I want us to create a package, and I want this package to be called model. Okay, I want it to be called what? Model. So now, what's this model all about? Because now developers often use model as package name for classes that model or represent the data. Okay, to model something you're representing. So actually use this model. Whenever we name a package model, it means that the classes there actually represent the data. Okay, so once I type model, I'll just click enter. You can see the name of my package now is model. So now I can now create a data class. Okay, I can now create a data class. So it's just a class that holds the data. So I'm going to build new Kotlin class, and I'm going to call it let's say declare or declaration. Okay, so now it's going to be a data class. So I'm going to choose data class. Now, so even if you don't choose data class, you can, and probably you mistakenly created a class, you can just add data just before the class, and then you're free to go. So let's now, of course, so we can see we have an error here. So data class must have at least one primary constructor parameter. Okay, it must have at least one primary constructor parameter. So when we create an instance of the declaration, okay, we need to pass the resource ID for the declaration string. We need to pass the resource ID for the declaration what string, the particular string that we want to actually display. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to use the resource ID. So I'm going to say here, I'm going to say val, the variable, I'm going to say string resource ID. And it's going to be of type what? Int. Okay, so that takes out the, because you need at least one primary word constructor, one parameter rather. Okay, so let's move on. So now let's create a class to be a data source. So now data displayed in your application may come from different sources. Okay, it may come from different sources, you know, maybe within your app or from an external source that probably requires connecting to the internet to download the data. So as a result of that, data may not be in the exact format that you actually need it to be. So the rest of the application, you know, should actually just concern itself with, you know, where the data originates from or in what format it is originally. It shouldn't concern itself rather with that. It shouldn't bother about where is the data coming from, what format was the original format. No. Okay, you can basically what you can do, you can just hide away this data representation in a separate data source class that prepares the data for the application. Okay, so let's do something. Let's prepare data separately. Since preparing data is a separate concern, let's put the let's create a data source class in a separate package. Okay, in a separate what package. So I'm going to do that. So I'm just doing this so you can see we can create more than one package. So I'm going to create a new package and I'm going to call it data. Let's just call it data. So we have a new package called data. So in here, we now want to create a class. So I'm going to create a class and I'll call it data source. So this is the source of the data, where the data is coming from. It could be external also, but for now ours is internal. So I'm going to create a class called what? Data source. Now inside of this class, I want to create a function called load declarations, or let's say load declaration. Okay. Okay, so this function, okay, I want this function to return a list of declarations. That's what I want this function to do. Okay, I want this function to create a list of, you know, declarations. So let's do that. So how do we do that? So since we want it to return a list, so I'm going to add this. So I'll say list of what? So we have declaration, which is, so you can see this package name here. So this is the declaration class that we created. So we want this function to return a list of what? Declaration. So this is how I'm going to now do it. So I just basically, what I did here is to just basically declare the return type, okay, as a list of declarations. Then inside here, inside the function, I'm going to now add a return statement. So I'm now going to say return. What do I want to return? I want to return a list of, okay, a list of what? Now, let me explicitly state what I want to return. A list of what? Declaration. Okay. So what is in that list? Now I need to populate the list. So to populate the list, I'm just going to say call my declaration class. And then remember, it needs a string resource. So with this now, the strings that I created, I'll just, you know, get them out of string dots. We have declare one, right? You put a comma. So I'm just going to duplicate this. I hope I've not done too much. So this for 2, this is for 3, this is for 4, this is for 5, this is for 6, 7, for 8, for 9, for 10, and we could just go back to 1 again. So take out this last comma. Okay, so this is what our function is going to return. It's going to return a list of what? Declaration. Okay, now let's just do this. Now let's just play around. Let's display the size of this declaration list in a text view. Now, yes, you can count to know how many items are here, how many declarations are here, but how can we probably just display that, on the application? Okay, so let's do a bit of coding. Now, so first of all, let's use this as text view. So let me give it an ID so I can relate to it. So let me just say text declare or declare size. Okay, no, I spelled that wrongly. Okay, yeah. So let's just give it a name. So in our main activity, let's see. Okay, so let's get a reference to the text view. So I'm going to say val text view. And of course, it's going to be of type text view. And this is going to, so we're going to say find view by ID does ID dot declare size, yes, which is the name of that text. So then let's add code to create and display the size of the declaration list. So what I'm going to do, okay, so just give me a second. Okay, so I need to quickly just give me a second, please. Thank you. Okay, yeah, so sorry about that. Let's go ahead. So then let's add code to, let's create and display the size of our declaration. So I'm just going to, so I'll just do this. So text view dot text, because I want to set the text down. So I'm just going to now call my data source, okay, which is the source of that data. I need to call in the parentheses, so dot load declaration. So the load declaration is returning a list. So because it's returning a list, we can get the size of that list by saying dot size. And then of course, this actually, if you check here, you see it required a character sequence, but it's seen an int. So we now have to convert to a string. So I'm just going to say dot to string. And that's that. So let's run this and then let's see the size of our lists. Okay, let's see the size of the declaration list that we just made. So let that run. So while that is running, okay, so let's reinstall and restart. Sorry about that. So you see, we have 11. Okay, we have 11. So that means the size of this is 11. And of course, we can confirm that. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, I have 10, and then we had an extra, which is 11. So if I take this one off, take out this, so we should have 10. we should have 10 displayed here. You can see that. I hope you can actually see that. Okay, so let's move on. So let me just delete this. Okay, that was just to show you a few things. So let's get into the recycler view proper. Okay, let's add a recycler view to our application. So let's take note of this. Okay, now there are a number of pieces involved when you want to create and use the recycler view. Okay, you can actually just think of it as division of labor. Okay, just look at it as division of labor. Now, let me list them. Okay, let me just list them here. So we have the item. Okay, now the item represents one data item of that list to display, of which in our case is going to represent one declaration object in our application. Okay, the next is what we call an adapter. Now, an adapter basically takes your data and prepares it for the recycler view to display it. Okay, it takes your data and prepares it for the recycler view to display. The next thing that you need is what we call view holders. Now, view holders is just basically a pool of views for recycler view to use and reuse to display, in our case, to display those declarations. Okay, and then of course the final thing is the recycler view itself. Okay, the recycler view itself, which is just your views on the screen. So how can we add this? So let me just leave this and then let's go here. We don't need this text view, so let's just take it out. We don't need this text view. Let's take that out. Now, so we actually have a constraint layout here. Of course, we can actually use that. Okay, constraint layout is actually ideal and flexible when you want to position multiple child views in a layout. Okay, but since our layout has just one single child view, which is just a recycler view, we can actually switch to a much more simpler view group called the frame layout. Okay, so I'll just highlight this and then I'll change this to frame layout. Okay, so okay, so yeah, so that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so we're using this because we just have only one child view. Okay, so let's move on. So let me switch to design view now so we can actually see what. So we can actually find it in containers, and then this is our recycler view. Okay, so I can just drag this and drop that here. So you can see we have added our recycler view. Okay, so of course, if there's a prompt to add dependency, okay, if it pops up, you can just click on it to add the dependency to make use of recycler view. But if it doesn't, then you don't need to stress yourself. Okay, now we can now let's just do some few things. So recycler view actually supports displaying items in different ways. We can actually display in a list or in a grid. And arranging these items is handled by what we call a layout manager. Okay, the Android framework actually provides layout managers for basic item layouts. Okay, now these declarations it just displays items as a vertical list. So that means we can use what we call the linear layout manager. Okay, so let's just move. So I'm going to let's switch over to code now. So we have the width of match parents, height of match parents. Okay, now I'm going to add. So there is another property, scroll bars. I'm going to select the scroll bars be vertical. Okay, so these scroll bars, when you need to actually want to scroll, and then I'm going to add. So we talked about the layout manager. Okay, and then we're going to use the linear layout manager. Okay, I was just going to confirm something. I think I should be able to just do it like this. So let's just run this to make sure we don't have any errors. Okay, to make sure we don't have any errors in our code. Light changes, reinstall and restart. So the reason, like I said, the scroll bars, okay, is just to be able to scroll through a vertical list that's longer than the screen. Okay, we actually need to add that vertical scroll bar. It kind of helps, the user. So okay, launch succeeded. So I think we are good. Okay, so no errors. I know it's not showing, but we'll get to that. Okay, we'll get to that. So now let's now implement the next thing. Okay, so what we have basically done is to implement we have added the recycler view. Now let's go into adding an adapter. Okay, now okay, so your app actually needs a way to take data from the data source and format it so that each declaration can be displayed as an item in the recycler view. Okay, the application, it needs a way to take the data from wherever that data source is and format it in such a way that each of our declaration can be displayed as a single item in the recycler view. So this adapter is actually a design pattern that adapts the data into something that can be used by the recycler view. So in this case, we actually need an adapter that will take an instance of our declaration from the list that is returned here. So we need to be able to take an instance from this list and turn it into a list item view so that we can actually display it. Remember, when we actually checked, when we ran this, we were not seeing anything here because the data has not been gotten from the data source, has not been formatted and for the recycler view to be able to display it. So that's why we want to implement the adapter. So when you actually run the application, recycler view uses the adapter to figure out how to display your data on the screen. So what does this mean? Basically ask the adapter to create a new list item. Okay, a new list item view for the first data. You understand? The first data item in your list. Once it has that view, it asks the adapter to provide the data to draw the item. So it will keep on repeating this process until the recycler view doesn't need any more views to fill the screen. So if only 3 list item views fit on the screen at once, the recycler view only asks the adapter to prepare 3 list item views instead of 10 of them. So basically, maybe the way it's been formatted is just 3 items you're seeing in that list. Probably your contacts, you've zoomed in, and it's just 3 items you're seeing. The recycler view asks for only 3. It won't ask, give me 10 items. It will say, no, give me 3. When you scroll up, that one item that has gone off, it reuses that view, that list, and populates the data for the 4th one. Okay, so let's now build an adapter. Let's build an adapter. So let's create an adapter. And to do that, we need to note this. An adapter has multiple parts. Okay, so we'll be writing a lot of code. So just note that may be more complex than you've actually seen or used before. But don't worry if you don't fully understand it at first. Okay, once we complete the whole application, okay, you actually understand it better and know how these parts fit together. Okay, and then of course you'll be able to reuse this code that you write in future applications. So first of all, before we do that, let's create a layout for the items. So what are the items? How do you want it to? So a typical, let me just show. Let me pick up my monitor. Let me see. Can I? I don't have any contacts here on this, but of course, if I wanted to create one, so let me just. I don't want to. Let me just do this. And then just do something, and then save. So we have one item saved. You see, we have one. Let me create another one. So this is just my emulator. I'm just playing around. Good. So this is actually a what? A list. Now, this first one, which is ATRH, this is an item in this list. Okay, so we want to now create the layout for the items. That means how should each item look? So if you look at this particular item has, the first item here has a text view here, which shows the name of the person. And then it has this rounded, stuff here, which can actually even display an image of the person or just the initial, the first letter of the person's name. So it could be an image view, image button, whatever, but it displays just a text. But you can actually just, if you want to add an image, you can also do that. So that is how an item looks like. Of course, we can decide to add this also as part of the list. That means it shows also the first image, the initial, a circle with the initial, and then the name. So this is an item. So the layout for this item is a layout that has a text view. Let's just call this a shape with a text view, and then it has another text view. This is an what item. So that's what we're going to do. Let's now create the layout for the items. How will they what look? So that's going to be another layout file. So I'm just going to come to layout. Okay, right click, new. I'll click on layout resource file. Okay. So let's call it list item. Okay, list item. Now you can see the root element here is constraint layout. You can change this if you want. Okay, so let me just load this. I'm going to change that. So let's add a text view to this. Let's add a text view. Now I don't want to use a constraint layout. Let me just go ahead to use the text view. Okay. And then, of course, I need to give it an ID. So let's say the ID is item title. So the width of the text view should wrap the content, and the height should also wrap the content. Okay, so let's do that. Now, so I know you may be asking, we actually don't need a view group around this layout because this our list item. It will later be inflated and added as a child to the parent recycler view. So we don't actually need to. It's not necessary for us to put a view group like a constraint layout. Okay. But it doesn't mean you cannot also do that, of course, when you have to display some complex stuff. Now, so once we've done this, because we're already displaying, our item is just displaying a text, which is just the declaration, no image, no other thing. So once you have done this, the next thing now is to create the adapter. So here it's going to be the item adapter. We're going to call it the item adapter class. So I'm just going to come down to this. So okay, we created a data package, and then okay, I was supposed to. So let's take this data source. You can just drag it to. I'll just drag it to this. I want it and then refactor. I want it to be inside of this package. Okay, good. Now, I can now decide to create. I can decide to create another package where I'll just have my adapter. Of course, if you're building a more complex stuff, you may have a lot of adapters. So, and let's also include. So I'm going to call it adapter. So in here, I'm going to now create my adapter class. So I'm going to say item adapter. So it's a class. So now, so let's now do this. Okay. So we're going to add a parameter, okay, to the constructor of this item adapter class. We want this item adapter class to take in a parameter, and we actually need to add that, okay, so we can actually pass the list of affirmations into that adapter. So I can pass it in so that I can prepare it for the recycler view. So I'm going to say, I'm just going to make this private. val, I'll call it data sets. And then this data set variable is going to be of type list, which is the list of declaration. Okay, so I didn't spell that private well, correct that. Okay, so we're fine. Okay, good. Now, moving on, the item adapter needs information on how to resolve the string resources. Okay, now this and other information about your application, okay, is stored in what we call a context object instance, so that you can pass into an adapter instance. Okay, because of course when you pass in the string resource, it needs to know how to handle that. This is just a class, it's not the main activity, or it needs to know how to handle that. And like I said, this and other information about your application is stored in what we call a context object. So we're going to add that here as part of the parameters. So I'm going to say private val context. Sorry, val context of type context. You can see we have this type, this context here. If I do a control, highlights, do a control B, you can see this contains, what is loading, contains a lot of information. Contains a lot of information actually. Don't bother yourself about that. Don't bother yourself about that. Okay, so I've actually added that. So let's move on. Now, the next thing is to now create a view holder. So we're back to, so this is the next one, view holder. We have created the item, we've created the adapter, we've created the recycler view. Now, the next one is the what? View holder. Now, recycler view does not interact directly with the item views. And when I say the item views, I'm talking about this text view here, this particular item, the views. It does not directly interact with it. It only deals with the view holders. So a view holder represents a single list item view in a recycler view. Okay, and it can be reused when possible. So just think of it about a holder of views. It holds views. So a view holder instance holds references to the individual views within a list item layout. That's why it's called view holder. So if in this list item we had a text view, an image view, a button, and the likes, it has a reference to all those views in that list item layout. It has a reference to all those views. Just like when we talked about binding, yeah, right? Yes. Okay. When we stopped using find view by ID, we talked about binding that holds all the views. So a view holder holds references to the individual views within a list item layout. That's why it's called view holder. And this makes it easier to update the list item view with new data. Since it holds references to all of them, it's easy to make some changes and updates. So view holders also add information that recycler view uses to efficiently move views around the screen. So let's actually now do that. So I'm going to do that inside the item adapter class. Okay, so I'm going to create a view holder. So I'm going to name it, I'm just going to name it item view holder. So it's a class, so I'm going to say item view holder. Okay, now just to note, okay, defining a class inside another class is just called by creating we're basically creating a nested class. Okay, so now since the item view holder is only used by the item adapter, creating it inside item adapter shows this relationship. Of course, it's not mandatory actually. You can actually create your item view holder outside of the item adapter class. Okay, but it actually helps the other developers understand the structure of your program. So the fact that the item view holder class is inside the item adapter class shows what relationship. okay, shows relationship because the item view holder is only used by the item adapter. So we're going to now add a value now. Okay, so I'm going to add a parameter to this. I'm going to say private val view of type view. Okay, so we're going to use this, we're adding this parameter to the item view holder class constructor, and you will see why we are actually, what we're going to use it for. So sorry, I keep it. Okay, private. Now, our item view holder class, okay, we need to make it a subclass of the recycler view. Okay, the recycler view holder, because the view holder, of course, it comes with a recycler view has a view holder class. So since we are creating one, we have to extend it. So we'll extend the recycler view dot view holder class, and then that requires what an item view. So you can see that. So we'll pass in this view that we created here. Okay, so and that is that. So with this now, inside here, we can now define a property, okay, and assign that property to the reference here to this. So what am I saying? I can now say val, let's say text view of type text view. So with this view, the view parameter, which is this one, I can now do a find view by ID and then get a reference to this text view, which is the item underscore title. So let's see. Yes. So I can remember we said the item view, the view holder, okay, it just holds views. It just holds references to views. So that if we had more items there, if we had an image, we can get the reference and store it here and the likes. Now, so the next thing is to override adapter methods. Okay, because there are methods we have to override to actually be able to, perform some certain, to actually use this recycler view and display data. So what are we going to do? So our item adapter class is now going to inherit or extend the recycler view.adapter. And this actually takes you can see it takes what? A VH, that is a view holder. Okay, so the view holder we're going to pass will now be our own view holder, the one that we created, which is this item view holder. And of course, to get to this item view holder, it is nested in this other class. So we have to first of all call the item adapter class, and then we can now get the item view holder, and definitely we have to add our parentheses. So you can see we have this red line here screaming. So if you come here, you just hover on it to say class, the item adapter is not abstract, and it doesn't implement the abstract based class, because let me show you something. So this actually has it's actually an abstract class. So you can see our adapter, public abstract. So we need to implement, override certain methods. We have the onCreate view holder, onBind view holder, okay, and the like. So I'll just click on this. I can just do Alt Enter and then click on implement. So I'll highlight the three of them. So you can just hold the Shift and then click on the last one. So it highlights that. Or you just hold Control and click on them one by one. And then I'll click OK. So you can see it actually overrides that. So yeah, so there's a lot of comments here that can actually help you understand. I'm going to leave that. So I'll push this code to GitHub and then you guys can check it out. So the onCreate view holder, you can see this is called when the recycler view needs a view holder of the given type to represent that. So you can actually just read this. Okay, we are behind time, so let's try to move forward. Okay, so I can take out this whole of this though. This is not. Just take this out. Okay, so let's implement these methods now. So you can see to do's. We need to implement this. Needs to be done. It needs to be done. So let's just. So first things first. Let's start with this get item count. So this particular method, it needs to return the size of your data set. Okay, that's basically what it needs to return. It needs to return the size of your data set. So there are actually two ways to do this. I can actually decide to say return data set. Now this data set, of course, it's from here, which is our list of declaration. I could just say data set dot size. Okay, this is actually fine. But at the same time, I can just make it a bit shorter. I could just say this is equal to data set dot size. So this is a bit shorter. So I'm just storing that here. So that's all. Now, the next is to now implement the onCreate view holder. So this method is called by the layout manager to create new view holders for the recycler view. Okay, when there are no existing view holders that can be reused. Okay, so remember that a view holder represents a single item. A view holder holds a view. So it represents a single list item view. Okay, so the onCreate view holder, the method, it takes two parameters here. You can see parent. It takes two parameters and then it returns a view holder, okay, which is our item view holder. The first is a parent parameter that you're seeing. Okay, so this parent parameter is the view group that the new list item view will be attached to as a child. Okay, of which the parent is actually recycler view. Okay, the parent is recycler view. Now, the next is this view type. Now, this view type parameter, it actually becomes important where there are multiple item view types in the same recycler view. Now, if you have different list item layouts displayed within your recycler view, there are different item view types. Okay, you can only recycle views with the same item view type. So in our case, there's only one list item layout and one item view type. So we don't actually have to worry about this parameter. So in our onCreate view holder, we'll obtain an instance of the layout inflator from the context. Okay, so the layout inflator, it actually knows how to inflate an XML layout into, when you have a hierarchy of view objects. So I'm just going to say val adapter layout. And then I'll call my layout inflator to inflate the layout dot from. Where do I want to inflate from? I'll use my parents, which is that the property, the parameter dot context, because we need to get the context. So this context, the parent here, if you check out the parent, so this is here, so the context. Now, so once we actually have the layout inflator now, the instance, okay, we can now use that instance to, you can actually just add a period followed by another method to inflate the actual list item, to inflate this guy. Okay, so I can do that. So I'll just say dot inflate. And what do we want to inflate? Our layout, which is r.layout dot list item, which is what we created. And then it needs another parameter, okay, which is, you can see this root. Okay, so basically attached to root. Now, we're going to set that to be false. Okay, we're going to set that to be false. The reason is because recycler view adds this item to the view hierarchy for you when it's time. So you don't need to attach it to any root. Okay, so no, I think we missed out something. So we need to pass in the root here is parent rather. Yes, and then attaching it to the root here is false. So you don't need to attach it. It will do that for you. So now that our adapter layout, it actually holds a reference to the list item view. Okay. Of course, in that list item view, that's where we can actually find child views like the text view that we created. So we're now going to return. Remember, well, here is returning an item view holder. So I'm going to say return item view holder. Okay, and then I'm going to pass in the adapter layout. Okay. Okay, because our adapter layout here is a view, right? And that view is what's the list item. So remember, our item view holder takes in a view. Okay, so that's actually that. Then the last one, which is the unbind view holder. So this last method is called by the layout manager in order to replace the contents of a list item view. Okay, it's called to replace the contents of a list item view. It has two parameters, like you can see, the holder, which is an item view holder, and then position. So, so this represents the current position of the item. That is the current item in that position. Okay. So what we're going to do, first of all, we're going to get the position of the data set. So I'm going to just say var item. So I'll get my data set and then pass in the position. So remember, the position is an integer. So if it's, since it's a list, remember I've talked about it. So if it's 1, it will get the value in the first index. If it is 2, that is, you're talking about the second index to get you the value in the second index. Okay. Then so we're basically just getting the position of that item. And then finally, we'll now need to update all the views referenced by the view holder so we can reflect the correct data. So in this case, we have just one text. We have one view, which is the text view. Okay. So we'll now set the text of the text view to display the declaration string for what? This item. Okay. So this is basically how we're going to just do it. So I'm going to use the holder. Now, let me just say this. Now, okay, so fine. Now we're going to use, since we want to get the string resource, okay, because each declaration is stored in this string resource XML file. So we're going to use a getString method, okay, that the Android framework provides, okay. It's with a string resource ID, and then it will give us the value that is associated with that ID. Okay, so the getString is actually a method in the resource class, and you can use it to get an instance of the resource classes. True, but you have to go through the word context, meaning that we have to call context and the like. So, but this is how we are going to actually do it. So I'm just going to say, so I'm going to use holder, which is from the item view holder. So with this holder, I can access this, this particular text view. So I say holder dot text view dot text, because we want to set the text. And what do we want to set it to? So since we want to get the string, I have to use context. Okay, so the context here is from this item adapter class dot resources dot getString, and then pass in the string ID. So what's the string ID? So I'm going to use my item, which is this particular declaration, dot the string ID. So remember, this string ID is from our declaration here. So we needed to access this guy. And then in accessing it, we have to get string. So because what we want to pass this particular item dot getString, okay, here is basically an integer value. So it's just an ID for the string. Okay, so with it, when we call the getString method, it now gets the value of that particular word ID, what is stored. So what am I saying? So if we now pass in declare 2 or whatever, it gives you the value, okay, which is, I believe, in myself. So that's just that. Now, So now we have actually done that. We now need to tell the recycler view to use this adapter. Okay, we have actually set it up. So let's now tell the recycler view. Okay, remember we said the adapter helps to what? Display, format it for the view holder. The view holder needs the adapter. So we have set it up. Now let's tell the recycler view that you can actually now use it. So I'm going to create an instance of the data set, the data source rather, and then call our load declaration method. So let me see if my data set. So this is going to be data source, okay, which we created dot load declaration. So we just want to load that. So that means this our data set now, okay, now contains a list of declarations. You can see that here. Now, let's now create a variable for, let's get the ID of our recycler view. I hope we actually did that. I hope we gave it an ID. So what's the type? The type is recycler view r.id. Let's confirm. Okay, so we didn't give it an ID, so let me just call it recycler or declaration list. Okay. So now to tell the recycler view to use the item adapter class, okay, that we have just created, we need to create a new item adapter instance. Okay, we need to create an instance that is an object of this class for us to be able to use it. And of course, our item adapter, it takes two parameters. It expects two things. You have to give it a context and then a context of this particular activity. And then you have to give it a data set. Okay, you have to give it a data set, which is just a list of declarations. So I can now use my recycler view object of that reference and call, I say recycler view.adapter, and then I want to set it. Then I'll call my item adapter class, which we created, and then pass in the context. So context is this, okay, which is the main activity. That's the context. We'll talk more about context actually. And then I'll pass in my list, which is my data set that I had, the variable that was created. Okay, so now another thing is, since the layout size of our recycler view is fixed in the activity, we can actually set there's a property called set has fixed size parameter. We can set it to true. So this setting is only needed to improve performance. Okay, so you use this setting if you know that changes in the content does not change the layout size. So we can actually just say recycler view dot set has fixed size, and then I'll just pass in true. Okay, so that's actually that. So let's run the application. I know a lot has been done, but you pick it up as time goes. Pick it up as time goes. So don't just go through the video again, and then of course I'm here to answer questions. So you can actually see that. You can see that we've been able to display what a list we have. So this is a bit small. So let's just format it. I want to show you a few things. So let me set the text size to, let's say, 18. Let me add a padding of, let's say, 10 dp. And then let's add more declarations. Okay, so let's run this now. So you can see what we have now. So you can see this scroll. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, you can see the scroll where we actually throw. You can see I can use it. You can see that. So yeah, I'm ready to show that. So this is our list. This is a recycler view. Okay, so yeah, we have actually succeeded in doing that. Okay, so yeah, so I'll take questions. Okay, for some of us have questions, but summarily, we have in summary, we talked about recycler view, which helps you to display a list of data. We said recycler view uses the adapter pattern to adapt and display the data. We said the view holder creates and holds the views for recycler view. What else? We also said that the recycler view comes with built-in layout managers. Okay, so that's why we're currently using the linear layout manager. We also said the recycler view delegates how items are laid out to that layout manager. Okay, so if you want to do it linearly, the layout manager handles that. Vertical, grid, or the likes. And of course, we also said that if you want to implement an adapter, you have to create a new class for the adapter, create a custom view holder class that will represent a single item, single list item view, and then extend from the recycler view view holder class. Then modify your adapter class to extend from the recycler view adapter class with your custom view holder that you've created, and then implement the methods within the adapter, which is the get item count, on create view holder, and then on bind view holder. Okay, so that's basically that. And then of course, yeah, so yeah, that's actually that. So probably if we're able to have another class within the week, we'll actually look at how to add, but it's not difficult, okay? Just to add, probably want to add an image, okay? If you want your list to have images also. So that means in this particular item, you can just now create, you can give it a view group, so you can constrain them and then put an image view also. So you're representing, remember this represents one item and then you can now reuse it. Okay, so that means one item will have an image and a text view, and then you can just update it here. That means you can update your declaration here now to take both a string resource and an image, which of course is an integer data type, and then update it here also. And then of course, come to your item adapter and update it where needed. So here you can get a reference to that image, and you can also set that image and the like. So this is where we're going to call it timeout. So thank you guys very much. If you have questions, you can just drop that on the Slack channel. I expect questions. Okay. So thank you very much, and do have a wonderful night. Thank you.